What up, nerds, and welcome to another carcinogenic episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 336, recorded on Sunday, September 12th, 2021. Tonight we're talking about the latest from James Wan, which is Malignant. Before we get into the movie, let's introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentle.
Hello, gentle mangs. How you doing?
So gentle and so mang.
That's so true. Are we ready to get malignant in this biz?
I am very excited about this movie. Let's talk about it.
Excited about talking about this movie or excited about this movie? There's a distinction there.
Both. We'll get into that. We'll suss it out.
Okay.
We'll suss
All right.
Strap in. It'll be an interesting conversation. Last but not least, calling in from the Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up? It's your boy. Down with the sickness. Stains. Did anyone else think that this monster looked just like the little Disturbed character that they created for their little band?
No.
Does anybody remember what that looks like?
No.
I attempt not to think about Disturbed very often.
Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
do.
Though? Like
Now
the
that you
little
mention
hooded
it,
guy?
I remember
I
a
can
little
see it,
smiley
yeah.
face thing. Oh,
For some reason, like as soon as they revealed it, I was like, Disturbed?
I was trying to connect whatever dot you were connecting there. So thank you for cutting my work short there because I would have never gotten there.
I don't know. That was the first thought I got, actually.
The first thought
That's
I
crazy.
had was like Sorcerer's Stone, like Harry Potter.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
get into that.
We'll
Good.
get into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, let's not jump right to that.
Yeah.
He who must not be stained.
Who must not be Sorcerer's Stoned?
I should have gone with he who must not be stained.
Okay. Sure.
Totally. Oh, boys. We got
Off
a
to a
movie.
great start.
We got a movie to talk about. But before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. We currently have our October poll pick posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this October. The theme for October is classic horror movies, and the three movies to vote between are Carrie, Child's Play, and Psycho.
How are those
There it
numbers
is.
looking?
How am I
is.
gonna beat you to that? Come on.
Yeah, you asked me the questions.
He who must not
Sorry.
speak stains.
I was trying to look up some more trivia, but I failed. Sorry.
They're pretty consistent with last week. Carrie's in first place, Child's Play's in second, Psycho is in last.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, Carrie, she's finally getting her day. I can't remember if I mentioned last week or not, but she was on last year's poll pick and just got her ass stomped. So
Yeah.
glad she's
We're all gonna laugh with her.
now
Yeah.
she's getting her ass tossed or whatever. I don't
Oh my
know.
god.
Opposite of
No.
stomped. I don't know.
No.
That is that's dead level opposite on the scale of things to do with an ass.
Anyways,
Stomp it.
You can
toss
stomp it. You can toss it. What?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a real versatile organ, really.
Just make sure you get your votes in before the end of September. We'll see what movie we're talking about this October. In other Patreon news, we got a brand new mini cast available for your ear holes. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a whole bunch of Patreon exclusive episodes. We've got like 45 up there now. Most recently, Justin was talking about a Netflix docu-series called Sophie, A Murder in West Cork. What's that all about?
Let's see. I mentioned it, I think, briefly on What You've Been Watching, but it was about a woman who got murdered, but she was French. She got married, or no, she got murdered, not married. She got murdered on in Ireland.
Same thing.
So she had like a vacation home there. Yes, yeah, and she got murdered there. And so it's got this interesting aspect of not only like whodunit and kind of the regular investigation stuff, but also kind of the the cultural impact and like the political aspect of it, of, you know, how do you prosecute this person? How's it different between Ireland and France? Like, what did France want out of the investigation, and how did they want to prosecute, and like the French family and stuff like that. So it was actually really, really interesting.
Really, I did watch that as well, but I didn't finish it because it started losing me pretty good towards the middle.
Really, I found it fascinating. Even like the guy they were, you know, interviewing, who is like a major suspect or whatever, not to like give it away, but like he kind of fascinated me in a terrible kind of way. Cause I was like, this dude's definitely guilty, right?
Dude, I watched
That's what all these documentaries do that though. So, I mean, it's tough.
Well, yeah.
I watched
Maybe I'm just getting cynical about my true crimes.
I watched it after you did the mini cast, Juice. And like, I had a similar situation where I was like, oh, this guy, not very interesting. And then by the end, I was like, oh, like, this is the guy. Like, right? Like, this is definitely the guy. I don't know. So yeah, if you are interested in hearing Justin's opinions and thoughts on Sophia Murder in West Cork, hit us up on Patreon. Like I said, there's like already 45 mini casts we're adding to that vault every month.
Thanks for listening, by the way, Bob. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, we're on the same team, man. Like we're all here.
God, the fellation that's happening right now.
So much fellation. Inflation.
She licked my asshole a little bit.
Good for Hydraberg. I don't know.
Bob, any Let's Get Physical media these days?
No. Nothing brand new, but we do have some more Patreon news that we gotta touch on. Last week we mentioned we're going to be reopening the You Pick the Flick tier, which is the only way you can outright pick a movie for us to review on this show. We open it up quarterly. There's only 5 spots per quarter. So we're going to be opening up the You Pick the Flick tier Sunday, September 19th at an undisclosed time. This is going to be for the 4th quarter of 2021, the last time we're opening the tier for this year. There's only 5 spots available. You're just going to have to check our Patreon website randomly throughout the day, Sunday, September 19th. Hopefully you'll check it at the right time and see the tiers open and grab one of those spots. They typically go very, very quickly. So have your wits about you.
I heard it was going to open at 6:09 a.m. through the grapevine.
Yes.
I thought it was 69:69 APM.
APM.
6,900 hours.
So this is going to be the last one for the year, everyone.
That's crazy to think about.
Tighten up.
Yeah. Also, something we didn't mention last week, just another reminder here, we're limiting it to 2 picks per person per year. So if you've already got 2 in, you cannot grab another spot. We're doing that just to try and make it easier for some new blood to get in there, because like we said, these typically go very quickly, and we're trying to level the playing field a little bit there.
We're going to get arrested.
We're tired of y'all's terrible picks.
That's not exactly what I'm trying to say. Sunday,
Think
September
about our
9th.
movies next time.
Man, you have just solidified at least one real fucking clunker next time around.
For sure.
As if there was doubt, but yeah.
Also, we got more Patreon news. More.
Yeah. Spooky season's coming up, and of course, this is when we come alive.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot happening. So this is something that we've never ever done before. This is brand new for the. And we'll never do again. Well, that remains to be seen. We'll see how this first one goes. So obviously we've been living in a pandemic for, the past year and a half, and a lot of people aren't being able to like go out and about and celebrate Halloween in person.
Halloween.
So we figured, what the hell, we're going to go ahead and throw our own little straight chilling Halloween party. We're calling it the Chilloween. That is...
Be prepared to be bedazzled.
Be prepared.
I'm prepared to be bedazzled.
Yeah, we're really on the cutting edge of this Zoom get-together.
Zoom hangouts.
Yeah, man.
It took us 2 years.
Yeah, like, I guess we'll do it, maybe. I don't know. It's fine.
We're hosting our first ever Chilloween party Friday, October 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is just for Patreon members. No matter what tier you support us on, you'll be able to join in on the fun here. So we're going to be doing some horror trivia. We're going to be doing a costume contest. And we're going to be hosting a surprise movie screening that evening. Yes. Tons of fun. Make sure that you mark your calendars Friday, October 15th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so that's a little bonus for the old Patreon.
That's patron only, ain't it?
Patron only. Make sure you got a dope-ass Halloween costume. Brush up on your horror movie trivia. We're going to be giving away some prizes. So if you're smart, or at least you're dressed really well, you're going to win some shit. So mark your calendars.
This is the only time fashion enters our lexicon is during Halloween. So
yeah, when you're wearing a full-blown costume, that's when it matters.
It's the only time we feel qualified to comment on other people's appearance.
Yeah.
We're also keeping up with last year's tradition of releasing a new mini cast each week in October.
Fuck.
So that's a lot of bonus episodes. Bonus episodes.
Yeah.
A delight to the senses, isn't it, my friend?
That is.
I hope so.
That is a slam-packed month. That's a lot of shit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of good shit.
So we won't be doing our regular show because we'll be so busy
doing
with all the extra stuff.
Incorrect. Somehow we soldier on.
Yes, we will definitely be doing the regular show. If you support us on Patreon, keep your eyes peeled for an invite for the Chilloween. Keep your eyes peeled for some more mini casts. Keep your eyes peeled for the You Pick the Flick tier opening Sunday, September 19th. All kinds of fun shit happening over on Patreon. I think that's pretty much all the housekeeping we got.
I think so. That's enough for this week.
Yeah, no shit.
My God.
So without further ado,
my God.
This house is clean.
Squeaky clean. And we're talking about the main event, Malignant. We're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Oh, boys. Malignant.
Mom, are you excited to eventually get this box?
Eventually.
Pre-ordered in triplicate.
Eventually, I'm sure I will get it, but it doesn't exist yet. Malignant. This movie's rated R, runtime of an hour and 51 minutes. This was directed by James Wan, was written by James Wan, Akilah Cooper, and Ingrid Bisu. Stars Annabelle Wallace, Maddie Hassan, George Young, some other folks. Plot synopsis is as follows. Madison is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murder, and her torment worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. Thank you, IMDb. Gentlemen's first time watch, obviously, because this is a brand new movie. Would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
God, tough question. So yes, to one end, which is this is an original horror movie in the year of our Lord 2021. That's I think is worthy of support. It's a wide release, big scale horror movie in 2021. So I think it deserves support on that front. I get there is certainly an audience for this movie, it turns out, but I don't think that I am it. So from a craft standpoint, I don't really recommend, but I do think that it has, value to horror fans and, in the realm of providing more options down the road besides what the same old. So I guess that's kind of a recommend.
Very loosely a recommend for me.
Yeah.
Juice, what about you?
So the good thing about this one is they did throw it up on HBO Max. So first off, I would not recommend that you go to the theater to see this. Do not go to the theater to see this film. If you, I want to make that very clear. If you can stomach the 2-hour runtime that this one is pulling, then I would say go ahead and check it out on HBO Max. If nothing else, to be part of the experience of like the discussion, because
boy, is it an experience.
It's James Wan, and like Randy said, it's new horror. It's just like 2 hours is a lot to get through, so I completely understand if you're like, I'm not spending 2 hours on this, and that's understandable. But if you can deal with that runtime, then go ahead and check it out on streaming only. Please do not pay to go see this. Rob, would you recommend people check out Malignant and in what capacity?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo you, man. Like, don't make a special trip to go to the movie theater to watch this movie. If you have HBO Max, then throw it on. No harm, no foul. You don't have to leave your living room. This is extremely polarizing, and I feel like I'm sort of the target for this movie, and even I don't really love this. So like it's hard to recommend. But I mean, if you already got HBO Max, you might as well throw it on and see. Yeah, see
that's how I feel.
Yeah,
I feel like actually home viewing might be ideal for these like conceit of this movie. Yeah. We'll get into that more later, I guess. But it might actually lend itself better to what this movie is attempting.
That does make some sense. Yeah, for sure. That is a very weak recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. I will say,
that is not even
registers on. Yeah.
That's not even a QJ recommend.
We're gonna drop the spoiler warning, and there is a lot to be spoiled regarding this movie. But like, I don't necessarily like if you're on the fence about seeing this, I might actually just say like hang out for the discussion, and if what we say sort of piques your interest, then go watch it. Like, I don't know if like I'd be like, please don't listen to us talk. Go watch it.
I don't think this is one of those movies where the twist is going to spoil the experience.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It might, but I would actually. Can I amend my recommendation? Because I do want to say that like for a certain type of horror fan, I think this is right up somebody's alley, and I think this is a kind of a horror movie that's like if A24 horror is too slow for you, this isn't like a counterpoint to that. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I'd say stop here and go watch it. And if not, then maybe we'll convince you. More than likely not. But yeah, that's where I would put it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited about this conversation. So let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right, boys. I got a plot.
Plop synopsis me.
Synop it.
Allow me to plop synopsize you. Here we go. All right, the movie opens up in 1993 at the Simeon Research Hospital with Dr. Weaver, Victor Fields, and John Gregory treating a patient by the name of Gabriel. It seems as if Gabriel has supernatural powers allowing him to control electricity. We hear his voice come through the radio and say he's going to kill them all. Dr. Weaver then dramatically says it's time to cut out the cancer. Jump forward to present day, we see our main character, Madison, who is pregnant, and in an abusive marriage, she ends up getting her head bashed into a wall by her husband. That night, a killer enters the house. He kills her husband, attacks Madison, causing her to lose her baby, resulting in her fourth miscarriage in 2 years. Madison begins having visions of a killer named Gabriel. She sees him kidnap a woman from the Seattle underground, as well as kill Dr. Weaver, Dr. Fields, and Dr. Gregory. Madison and her sister Sydney eventually contact the police and work with Detective Shaw and Moss to hunt for the killer. The detectives search Dr. Weaver's home and find out Madison was a patient of hers. Madison also reveals to her sister that she was adopted by their parents at the age of 8 and has no recollection of her first 8 years of life. The detectives hire a psychiatrist who hypnotizes Madison, allowing her to access childhood memories. We see that her birth name is actually Emily May, and that Gabriel spoke to her as a child. He tried to convince her to kill her unborn sister. Madison is eventually arrested when the kidnapped woman falls through her ceiling. The woman turns out to be Serena May, Madison's birth mother. Sydney ends up visiting the now condemned Simeon Hospital and finds out that Gabriel is Madison's conjoined twin brother who shares Madison's brain. Dr. Weaver removed most of Gabriel and sewed what little remained back into her skull. Gabriel laid dormant, but was awakened when Madison's head was bashed into the wall. Back at the precinct, Madison is provoked by other inmates, and we see her transform into Gabriel, ripping the back of her head open, revealing his mangled face. Gabriel kills all the other inmates and several cops. Gabriel then goes to the hospital, intending to kill his mother, when Officer Shaw discloses that Gabriel was the reason for Madison losing all of her unborn children. Madison takes control of her body and locks Gabriel up in a mind prison, and the film ends with a touching moment of sisterly love between Madison and Sydney. Roll credits. Randy, did you hemmed and hawed? Did I say something you disagreed with?
It's the conjoined twin thing, which is right. Categorically incorrect.
Okay, come on.
Becky would have
science here.
Becky would lose her fucking shit if she heard you say that.
I ain't no scientist, Doc.
She is so high on her correct assumption about what Gabriel is, which is a teratoma, or is related to a teratoma tumor, which is a type of tumor that has like teeth and eyes and hair and shit, and is more or less a failed. It's not. You're not entirely wrong. That's why it's like I hemmed and hawed, but it's like a failed in utero sibling that did not fully form or separate. And if you want to really lose your grasp on reality, Google image search teratoma. Because I did that, and Soju can attest that the reaction was...
He did it before Bob even got on, and his reaction was so strong that it was freaking me out. I can't even see it. It was
one of the worst fucking image searches I've ever seen, and it made me question my sanity for even attempting it.
It was true disgust.
Rob, you've seen a little bit because Becky sent it to you, as I recall.
Yeah, Becky just started like dropping images in the group chat, so I had no choice. I was just like, I now have to deal with this.
I'll tell you, man, what she sent you was bad. What I saw was so much worse.
It's the teeth that's the worst for me.
Well, buddy, do not search for this shit because the teeth are everywhere.
So this
Rob, you like extra teeth, don't you?
No, I don't. So
he likes it dry, though.
This is like a little more. So conjoined twin teratoma, so whatever this is not a fully formed human, but also it has consciousness. It's aware. It's self-aware.
And it's described as the devil. And I don't know how canonically accurate that is, or if that's just a name that like, it's like somebody saying, oh, no, it's the devil.
That's what she said when she was a little girl.
Right.
And it's also like got powers. It's
right. That's the thing.
Well, that's the part of the movie we need to talk about, because that's why
there's a lot.
Like there's some things I can accept here. Like even the idea
I'm so excited to see where you draw the line on this movie.
Well, even the idea of that's attached, like, that's not the worst idea for a horror movie, because it is truly disgusting. So if you want to go that route, this movie particularly dives into the realm of gore. It gives you a ton of gore and like really brutal, in your face kind of kills. So if you wanted to take a horror movie that route where it's kind of disgusting and body horror and stuff like that, then it really isn't the worst route, because seeing Randy's reaction is like an attestament to that. Yeah. Okay. But then when you add in some of these things that James Wan added in, like it controls electricity. Like why? Why does it control
electricity? That's the question I have. Because it controls electricity. It can speak through radios. And so that to me says, okay, so this must be a legitimately supernatural devil. But why does that make sense? Like we don't we find out that her lineage at one point, we find out that her mother gave her up for adoption because she came from an evangelical home. But there isn't a whole lot of detail about like she was raped.
She was raped. Yes.
Yeah. She was raped as a child, but we don't get a whole lot of like information about who the father was or anything like that. Any of the stuff that I would expect them to go into if they want to sell us on the devil point of view. This movie goes through great lengths to explain a lot of things, but it does not go to great lengths to explain whether or not this is an actual supernatural event, or if, or if it's supposed to be like sci-fi approach.
That's a good,
I have an idea as to why all of this is in the movie. And my idea is that James Wan is just a really big fan of Wes Craven. Like he loves the movie Shocker and also Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, he's like the bastard child of 1,000 maniacs or whatever. And also like he's able to manipulate electricity. It's just like a lot of like Wes Craven tropes from like movies in the 90s, which apparently he was trying to like riff on a little bit here, which it doesn't necessarily make sense for this movie. But I don't know. That's the best idea that I got.
The thing is, like, those movies don't explain, like, they don't hyper explain anything. True. They explain only what they feel like is thematically appropriate, and the rest is left to imagination. That's the only thing left to imagination in this movie that I can think of, except for the things that just don't make sense from a logical standpoint, like why are the cops acting this way? That sort of shit. Like just bad character writing. And so on.
Here's a legit question I had for just from like a confusing standpoint. So like, okay, it could be problematic that it controls electricity or whatever. Okay. So they go to, I want to bounce off Randy because he's talking about explaining everything. So they, at the end, she's in the jail and she rips her head open finally. And they do this whole explanation of, oh, he's been trapping you in this dream world. Okay, I can kind of get behind that. That's fine. But here's the problem I have with that. When the cop goes and faces this being or whatever, the first time the cop goes to like a house or something, he actually catches it and he's chasing it. He sees the monster's face.
Yeah, we see the
one
face,
eye and everything.
We see the face a handful of times, actually. So
so how does that make a lick of sense?
But also, like, whenever... I guess Gabriel's able to just like reveal his face whenever he wants to, but also like whenever she wakes up in bed, like her pillow's always covered in like fresh blood, as if it's like just healed.
That's true.
You know?
I guess I'm confused about your question.
Skull.
Yes, her skull slides away like a fucking metro door opening.
It doesn't
and just lets this guy pop out.
Sense. It doesn't.
My question was, it's like when her head, it literally, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense where like her pillow is bloody, but I mean her head like opens up, and the way that they showed it made it seem like he was finally like breaking free and breaking loose, and I was like, well then how was his face all wrapped up before and the guy saw it?
So like his face pops out, I guess, whenever he wants to. Also, whenever he's in control, like both of her like elbows dislocate so that he can move the arms freely. Yeah. So like when she wakes up the next morning, she should be in like horrific pain, like unable to move, really.
That shit looks so stupid.
I'm the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I can walk backwards fast as you can.
Wow. This movie has a backwards man in it.
Wow. That scene where she's in the jail and like killing like dozens of cops, I thought was so dumb.
I loved that.
Dude, I agree. No, you did?
I love that.
See, okay, here's the thing. I kind of liked it, like, on a pure, like, I don't know. There's, like, something to like there where it's like, okay, now that I understand that this movie is as silly as this, I might as well fucking lean into that part of it. And I tried to. But I also feel like this movie kind of bait and switched me a little bit, and I did not feel that shit looked good. Like visually, it looked really fucking bad. The fucking CG on that shit, the way it was shot, the way it was blocked, it was like early like Matrix ripoff level bad. And it's like that, like, okay, so if the idea of this movie is to make a movie that you'd pull off the back shelf of a fucking Blockbuster or whatever, that's like a basket case or like one of those type of movies, fine. But those movies are charming because of their failed practical effects that look dated and awful now. But watching bad CG does not have the same charm. It's just bad CG. I don't know if I'm the only one that lives that life, but to me, like, bad CG just looks like as bad and cheap as like an Ed Wood effect looks. It still seems scrappy and interesting. Bad CG just looks like they hired somebody off Fiverr and gave him 3 days to throw it together.
Poor James.
And it's like, good for that person, but like that's not fun or charming to look at. That's like, I don't know, that seems craven by comparison.
That's a good point, because once that shift happened, there were moments in this, like in this ending, I guess, the second half, and it's not even a half, like this last quarter or whatever, that made it feel like an early 2000s horror thriller.
It felt like Dracula 2000 at times.
Yeah, Dracula 2000, or it made me think of like the what's that with Sean Connery in it, the men, they go in a submarine and there's Dracula's with them or whatever.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Yes.
The
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It made me think of something like that, to the point where I was like, this is what, if they tried to do like a dark universe in early 2000s where it was like, they kind of have superpowers, which is kind of what that movie was, which is kind of why it made me think of it. I was like, this is what it would look like. And it would be just as silly. And I was like, that's a terrible era for film.
Totally agree.
It's that early 2000s. It looks like that and it feels like that and it's bad.
For comparison, think about like the Evil Dead series. When I was in high school watching that shit, it was 20 plus years old at that time. You know, think about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That movie's about 20 years old now. Do you think that kids in high school are watching that shit and saying badass? No, they're fucking not. It's not the same. It does not have the same charm. And like, I just don't see bad CG. And like there's a difference between like a charmingly bad movie made in like the 70s, 80s and a bad movie made right now, because a bad movie made right now strikes more as mediocre than it does as like charmingly, like a big swing and a miss. Although this movie is certainly that, which is why I kind of feel obligated to support it in some ways.
I want to I
don't know if it was a big swing and a miss though. He to even like reading your article about it, Randy, he feels almost like arrogant about it, or like, I don't know, his attitude surrounding it almost feels like middle fingers up, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if it's a big swing and a miss.
Well, I was thinking about budgetary wise.
I don't think like James Wan is really trying to do something experimental or do something like edgy or it just feels like he's kind of having a joke.
So, from what I understand of like what James Wan was trying to do with this was like, quote, one for like the real horror movie fans. And he was like trying to riff on like 90s, like really over the top movies, which were, you know, like getting into CG, which means most of it was pretty bad. But some of that stuff was like still practical and like over the top, like Shocker, like one of the movies that I think definitely influenced this one here. You know, a lot of people throw out like Basket Case, which, you know, the conjoined twin situation may or may not have influenced this movie. I think where this movie really fails for me is like, so the very first scene sets you up. And you're like, okay, it ends on a really goofy one-liner. We're going to cut the cancer out. Like, it's very over the top. It sets the tone, and you think you're going to get that tone throughout the rest of the movie. And then you sit with this movie for another hour, and it's not that at all. James Wan sort of like relies on his like standard playbook. It's like a condensed version of Insidious almost, where like you've got a main character who like suffered childhood traumas, and her house starts off being like super spooky and haunted, and it turns out that it's not haunted at all. I guess it's just some sort of like slasher, and then it transforms into like this weird like James Wan Giallo situation. But they still have to get like they still have to get like the cops involved, and then they eventually like hire a psychiatrist that helps our main character get hypnotized and unlock these like childhood traumas that like leads towards us like understanding who the true villain is. Like all of that is directly taken out of Insidious 100%. And there's even a scene in this movie that was filmed in the Seattle Underground that looks identical to the further. It is like drenched in fog. He just like goes back to his regular ass playbook.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then we eventually get to the precinct where we see who the actual villain is. We see Madison like rip open the back of her head, and then it turns into a like big campy horror movie fest again, just like the first.
Well, it doesn't even turn into a horror movie; it turns into a fucking action movie.
Well, yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like at no point is this movie scary, which is like I've seen plenty of horror movies that are not scary but still successful. This movie doesn't strike me as that. But I want to talk about James Wan's career in general, because you're touching on something that I was thinking about a lot, which is, okay, so like let's think about his career as a big time director. He really got his big break with Saw. Like he kind of like at a time when horror movies were, largely like dated slashers and things like that, like just not like things that people were panning on. He came through with Saw, which kind of kicked off torture porn in the US as a viable thing and as a trend. And, I like the first Saw. I think that there's a lot of people that like Saw in general. I don't like most of them, but that first one is certainly kind of a game changer, if nothing else, in terms of the landscape of horror movies at the time. Then his second break, the second time he really like got out there and got in front of people's faces as a name, was with The Conjuring and Insidious, which were both movies that were presented at a time where movies were either Paranormal Activity ripoffs or more torture porn. So he was, in both cases, he's traveling against the current of the day. And I think that's what he's trying to do here, because the trend now is A24 slow burn character studies that aren't necessarily gory, but they are like troubling in some way or whatever, which, tends to be something I'm more interested in anyway. But this movie bucks that entirely and goes for the schlocky route, which there's some merit to that. We saw Overlord do that to much greater effect. But this movie doesn't do that successfully, in my opinion. I think that it's an attempt, but I think that it doesn't know what it wants to be, which is exactly what you're kind of pointing at, and is making great points to that effect.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something Rob said too, which added another hole for me, because I thought it was right too. Not only the things Bob mentioned, but even like the silhouette of the house looks so much like Insidious. And okay, explain to me this situation. The first kill that we get is the husband, and it literally plays out like a haunted house where he sees a figure disappear and we see the pressure rise from the couch. That's right. How does that make any fucking sense with the explanation of this movie? It doesn't.
I was totally convinced that from the beginning, I knew, like, I don't know about you guys, but I called the idea that she was in some way the person doing this. But at the same time, that particular kill, I was not convinced, because the way it looked like less of a defined corporeal figure, and shit like that, like you described, is like the very obvious thing about it. But even just visually, it looked like it looked like one of like a smoke monster person.
Looked like Game of Thrones,
right? Exactly. It didn't look like a corporeal presence. No, and I thought, okay, so there's two figures here. There's one that's her, and she doesn't know what's going on. But then there's this other thing. That was a theory I was playing with, because those things looked so different and behaved differently.
And he did a jump scare where like the kid runs across the living room downstairs. Yeah, he ghost or whatever. And that's
I immediately thought of Conjuring. And Insidious.
Yeah. Where the kid runs. I mean, that same scare almost happens beat for beat in Insidious when the kid runs across the living room when the woman's like searching through the house. Like, that's
trade in Tiny Tim for the Pixies and you got the same fucking movie.
Except this time I was noticing that the jump scares had like even more oomph as far as sound behind them. They were very shrill.
It was more shameless
scares. Yeah.
I think that was an intentional choice too, though.
I think so too.
Let's not forget that like James Wan knows how to make a scary movie. He knows how to scare a motherfucker. Like if he wants to, he can do it. Like he's done it several times. So I think everything he's doing in this movie is a choice. Whether or not it's successful or you like it is another thing. But like the man knows what he's doing regarding making a scary movie.
I'm just saying, like beat for beat, like I mean, sure, that's a choice, but kind of I was bouncing off your idea of this is recycled material.
I agree. I agree. I feel
so
like
he's choosing. So if that's your argument, then he's being lazy.
No, I think he's aiming for something and falling short because he doesn't necessarily have those skills. He's relying on skills he does have that do not lend themselves to something like a basket case. Like, I think maybe that's the kind of conceit there.
Yeah.
I have a quote here from an interview with him that I wanted to read, if that's okay.
Yeah.
From this Bloody Disgusting interview he had. Let's see. The person asked him, Oh, well, actually, no, it's just him talking. He says, Malignant seems like Wan unrestrained in a playful way, and he reflects on why that is. In his words, I honestly think it's partially because the last 10 years, I've become known as the Conjuring guy. I've been known as the supernatural ghost guy because of Insidious and the Conjuring films. I thought, oh, wait a minute. You guys were labeling me as the torture porn guy from 15 years ago. How did I become like the ghostly jump scare guy? I guess it's just me being playful. I just kind of me knowing people's perception of me. And when I start to think of that I'm becoming repetitive or that I feel like people think they know me too well, that's when I go, okay, I need to change things up. I need to reinvent myself. I need to try different things. And that was the case with Malignant. So I think that there's some and I don't think that's a bad impulse. Like I don't. I just don't think that I think that he's playing outside of his typical sandbox and he's not doing as well.
Yeah, I'm all for him taking swings and trying new things because like all directors have to do that. And like regarding the horror movies that he's made in the past, like he did Saw, which was like torture porny, police procedural kind of thing. But then like the next 4 he did were like Insidious, Conjuring, Insidious 2, Conjuring 2, all somewhat similar, not identical, but like haunted house, ghosty type movies. So it makes sense that like for his next one, he would want to try and do something different. I feel like he just didn't really do that for the most part. Like at least half. I also think he
nailed the landing.
At least half of this movie is still like that same old recycled sort of stuff, and he tries to elevate it a little bit and make it like tongue in cheek, but fails ultimately. It just doesn't work.
It just seems like an Insidious movie with worse acting, worse and less comprehensible story beats and internal logic, and really stupid fucking over the top fight scenes for some reason. That doesn't track for me. And like he's asking, how did I become known as the Conjuring jump scare? Dude, bitch, you did 4 fucking movies.
And they were
that
good.
Were basically that.
Debatably,
and they were pretty decent. At least good. The first two, the first Conjuring and the first Insidious movie, I really love. I still love those movies. But they are not the same. Like they're not the same as the shocking movies that he's trying to now homage. And it just seems like maybe that's a bit of a cop out, or maybe it's just out and out, missed the mark, which is fine. Directors are entitled to miss the mark. I'm so glad that I do think that this is a big swing, both in terms of budgetary reasons and because it's obvious that he's stepping outside of his normal sandbox because it's not doing so well. And I think that a big horror director doing that is important in order to get more people taking risks, more studios taking risks. So I respect that on some level, but it's no mystery that why this guy is the jump scare haunted house guy. And it really does feel like he's relying on that. I'm relying on those skills. Like you said, I think you nailed that, honestly.
Yeah. So the budget of this was only, around $5 million. So like, he's gonna make the money back, and he's already like doing production on the next Aquaman movie. Like he's set, he's good to go. This movie was definitely like one for the director, one for James. Whatever you want to do, buddy, go ahead, go out there and have some fun.
Yeah.
And I kind of hope that they let him do that again after Aquaman. And you every other movie, go take a swing, whether we like it or not. Like I want to see him like play around and have some fun. Honestly.
I totally agree. I would much rather get another Malignant than another Aquaman. I'm very much on board, or another Insidious for that matter. Like I would much rather see Malignant 2, which there's
making another Insidious movie. Of
course they are. Like that's, I don't know.
I'm surprised.
Is he making it? He's not him, right?
He's probably producing.
He is producing and co-directing. There's like 3 directors.
Oh shit! Really?
On the next Insidious.
Oh, that's always a mark of quality.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's called Insidious: The Dark Realm. It's in post production. It's in post already.
That sounds like a contractual obligation to put him as fucking director of that.
They already shot that apparently. So interesting.
I want to say Miles kind of made a good point to where I kind of feel like there's a little arrogance behind some of those statements he's made about this. Miles on Slack didn't like this movie either. And I thought he made a good point of saying that like trying to make a bad movie isn't like how you make a bad movie with charm. You guys love Sleepaway Camp because they were trying to be good and it fails.
Rob disagrees with you on that,
actually. And so, but I'm just like, a lot of the charm of things like come from, again, like we said, budgetary restrictions and stuff like this. This movie looks way too fucking clean to be like a schlocky monster movie. It's so fucking clean looking. It's so polished. I just feel like it's a bit of a cop out. And it doesn't give an excuse to have like poor writing either. Like the ending of this movie, the way it kind of resolves itself feels like the biggest cop out of anything. Like if you want to take wild swings, then don't make this like clean little, I'm just going to push it away into the back of my mind because now I'm stronger ending. It's like, dude, then do something fucking crazy. There's nothing in this movie where I think like, wow, that sure was wild or interesting. If anything, I'm thinking it's bad or it's dumb. Like, I don't feel like he's making any of the right actual choices here.
I would actually
he wants to accomplish.
I agree. And I think that what you're describing about the ending, I think you're dead on, but my suspicion, and I have no way of proving this is just my suspicion, is that he chose to do that, or like the decision was made for the option of longevity of the franchise. Not be like, I feel like the obvious thing to do in a movie like this is to have her hack her own brain out or some shit like that.
Sure,
that's the thing you do.
Yeah.
Like that makes so much sense. But they chose not to do that. Instead, imprisoning him, even like paying lip service to the idea of like, I'll be back. And she's like, I'll be ready for you. That's a punch pull in a movie that is priding itself on not pulling those kinds of punches.
Yeah.
Malignant.
I don't know.
That's a good call.
Even more malignant. Yes. I don't know, man. I mean, the thing is, polish isn't even necessarily the big difference for me either, because like I said, Overlord was fairly polished. Fucking Drag Me to Hell is fabulous and it's pretty polished. It's not really the issue. The issue is the tonal inconsistency, in my opinion, and the really bad effects and the inability to choose a lane, really.
He also, he sets himself up to have like an over the top crazy B movie, and it wouldn't have taken a whole lot. Like he's done like CG effects with ghosts with less money. You could do the same with so in the kitchen, at the very beginning of the movie where the husband's being a piece of shit and hears the blender turn on and he walks into the kitchen and the door opens on the refrigerator, and I was like, okay, they do a really close-up shot of the blender. You see the sharp-ass blades, and I was like, somebody's getting killed with that blender. And
that's a fucking Chekhov's gun, right?
Yeah, and it never happens. And they never ever do any kills with electronics ever in this fucking movie. Like, why do they set that up and just not do anything with it?
Yeah, that's true. They introduced that big fucking award knife thing, which is kind of cool and ridiculous. I was okay with that, but it's the only thing that's used for the entirety of the rest of the movie.
Control electronics, kill people with electronics.
Dude, if you're gonna go crazy, have a fucking a cable for the blender, choke someone out, have some shit like that happen. That's what Shocker would have done. And if you're going after Shocker money, that's what you do. Whether or not that's a good idea is another question. But
that would have helped the tonal consistency throughout the movie. Instead of just turning over to a slasher or a giallo or whatever you want to call it, just do that. Do crazy wacko kill sequences with weird electronics, and it would have been way more consistent and way more wacky throughout. It's two movies.
Hey, you would have known,
smashed together.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It really does. It feels like It feels like a not well blended smoothie in this shit. It's you start with one movie, you get the credit sequence, and then you get this fucking whole other movie for a while, and then all of a sudden it turns into fucking John Wick with a backwards man. That's not what I was expecting at all, and that's not always a good thing to defy expectations, because the tonal consistency of it is just not there. It makes it feel like I've just entered a whole different fucking movie. I'm just not prepared. I'm not interested in the movie that I haven't been watching for an hour. I'm interested in the movie that I have been watching for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I would even say that some of it is a big miss too, because when they finally reveal that the thing is on her back, I didn't think, again, I was like, okay, there's potential here. That didn't look, it looked disturbing, but when it rips out of her fucking skull, it looks like Harry Potter bullshit.
It does, man.
Yeah. And he has to be aware of that. You have to know that that's a huge cultural thing.
So so you're suggesting that it's either he was like just wrote it off as but it's a schlock movie. It'll look if it looks bad, it looks good, or it's just shoddy workmanship in general.
I think
those seems like the two options.
It would have been better if it was a rubber mask glued to the back of someone's head.
Would have been.
I would have preferred it.
Really would have been.
I really would have.
Also, like skull compartment or no, that motherfucker would have had insane back scars.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
true.
Nobody seems to know anything about that shit.
and also like James Wan in the past, like he's not shied away from very simple like face paint, like for ghosts and demons.
Yeah,
like
going
the
simple is his
cheapest
thing.
option possible, and that shit works for me anyway. Not for everybody, but it works for me. Like light CG in like I don't know. They gave him a few extra $1 million, and he's like, I don't know. I made Aquaman, and that shit worked
He's like
out,
the George Lucas thing.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's like a Shyamalan George Lucas thing where it's like all of a sudden you have all this money and you ruin it by just tossing money at shit rather than being creative with a limited palette, so to speak.
If anyone's seen Aquaman, that the CG and that looks like hot garbage, and that man like works exclusive. You know, it's this has got to be WB or whatever. Their CG they need to fire that department. They need to do it 10 years ago, because anything that comes out of that CG looks like fucking PlayStation 2 graphics every fucking time.
I don't know that this is the case there, but I could see a situation. I know very well that animators in that field are incredibly put upon, and they're given like 80-hour work weeks and not nearly enough pay for what they do. So the fact that they're being short-shrifted money-wise to me says that they're depending too much on fucking CG. If your entire movie is so dependent on CG that you have to underpay and overwork your staff to the point where it looks bad, then you're fucking shooting yourself in the foot.
Maybe just film something. You know?
Well, no, okay. If you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm taking a movie with $5 million, dollar budget, and I'm gonna do whatever I want," don't fucking CG then, because that shit's expensive. And if you're gonna do a low budget film, do a fucking low budget film. Don't try to add all the elements you would into your normal high budget films, because then it just looks like, how are you gonna pay animators and things like that on a $5 million budget? Like,
by
what
screwing them is the answer to that,
and making it look like complete dog shit.
Yeah. Well, this movie made about $5 million. I'm trying to find out how much this movie cost. That's what I'm interested in, but I'm having a hard time finding it.
But what I saw I thought it was 5 and it made 15. But also I feel like IMDb is questionable. Yeah, so it's oh wait, no, I'm just looking at gross. Fuck, I'm sorry.
Gross is $5,570,000 on Box Office Mojo.
Right, and then worldwide gross was 15, and then US Canada was 5 million. So I don't know the budget. My bad. I thought I was quoting correctly.
I gotta think this is a more he just got off fucking Aquaman. Whether or not that movie was a huge success, this movie definitely has a higher budget than fucking Insidious did. I don't think there's any ability that that's not the case. So that being the case, like Justin said, do not then rely on CG. Sorry, go ahead.
Quick Google search does report that the estimated budget of Malignant was $40 million.
Okay, that is too much money for the fucking quality CG you brought, which tells me that you did not fucking invest your money properly. You were not creative enough with $40 million to then make a good movie. You need to be more creative with that shit.
Yeah,
I just had the realization too. I was like, oh shit. Cause I had mentioned, this studio and him doing Aquaman and stuff like that. Pretty much every movie this year that has pissed me off and that I've shat completely upon are these HBO fucking Godzilla vs. Kong. Mortal Kombat. These things were like, they're supposed to be just fun, just soak it all in, but they're just terrible CGI bullshit.
At least those are totally consistent though. This movie did not give any indication to me. I did not see a trailer, in fairness.
But
this movie did not at any point give me an indication that at least 2/3 into the movie, I did not know that this was going to be, oh, this is fucking schlock. I thought this was just really bad James Wan movie. Like, that's what it feels like.
This was Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema, apparently, were the two production houses that put this movie out. And I do want to mention real quick, Randy, you were talking about the trailer, or Juice, you were talking about the trailer. The trailer of this movie is only advertising the middle 60 minutes of this movie and not what the movie starts and ends with. It's hey, this is more James Wan. This is spooky, scary, haunted house stuff. Maybe there's a murderer involved. This is sort of normal James Wan stuff. You know him, you like him, come watch this movie, which is no fault to James Wan because directors don't have any control over trailers that are cut to advertise their own movies, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's bad advertising. It sets you up for failure. It really does. It's a shitty trailer for this movie, I think.
It's true, but it's building off what they're given too. Because I mean, there's
that is the first
plenty of bombastic shit. But yeah, it is, exactly.
That's true.
It's not. It's only an unfair representation of the other half of the film.
Yeah.
Why is this movie 2 hours long? Why, dear God, is it 2 hours long?
I don't know, but to that end, let's ask this question. How quickly did you guys figure out what was going on? How early?
I knew there was a twin situation at least halfway. As soon as we get to okay, we're watching old VHS tapes of this little girl and her, I figured there was a twin situation. I didn't know exactly how it worked out.
You know what I honestly thought it was, Randy? And we might be talking about this soon, next month, hopefully. I can't remember exactly, but I thought it was a Bart situation with the twin in the attic or whatever, where they're split at birth. One is evil, one is good. And you get the whole twist of no, this one's evil or whatever. I thought it was a play on that. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, that's kind of the road they lead you on because in its defense, to some extent, they do show her sleeping in her bed while murders are happening, which they do explain away later in an incredibly unlikely way. But at the time, it seems legitimate. Okay, so it can't be her. I was dubious of that. I was like, there's got to be something going on where she's doing this. Just the creature looks too much like her for starters. And I could see that the fucking legs were bending backwards and shit. There's no reason to do that unless this is you're talking about a twin. But its legs been. There's no reason to do that unless there's something happening to this woman. Fair. So that's when I started figuring it out. But if you're not, if you don't catch that, then I guess you're kind of being led astray intentionally pretty well by showing her sleeping in her bed and showing that this is what's going on or whatever while somebody's getting killed. So,
but again, it's purposefully misleading because of that first kill scene. Okay, it looks like a ghost. It's a shadow creature. It's there, it disappears, and then it's behind you, and it stabs you with what looks like a shadow knife because he doesn't have the trophy knife at that point. It looks like he gets stabbed with a shadow. Okay, so that's misleading. And then I was misled too when the guy saw the face. I was like, okay, well, this shit can't be involved because he saw the creature he's chasing down. It's not. At this point, I'm thinking it's not a smoke monster. It's a physical thing. He's shooting at it. He can see it. He sees a face. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, maybe it's gaining powers. I mean, because it controls electricity. But I just feel like it just proves the fact this movie is too muddled with its ideas.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say we're coming towards the end of the episode, and I just wanted to do a quick round table. What is your favorite thing about the movie before we rate it? We've done a lot of negatives.
What's your least favorite?
We've done a lot of negatives, but
yes,
if there's something in this movie you like, what was it?
I'll go. Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I just looked at my notes, which I'll go through, when I do my own little thing. But the one that stuck out to me, as I said, the gore is on point. And I kind of mentioned this in my toward the beginning. The gore, like the kills here are brutal and they throw them in your face, and the body horror stuff is pretty on point. Like I said, even when they showed that it was on her back and like the little arms were moving, it doesn't look amazing, but he could have rode that. It looked sellable enough to me to where I was grossed out by it. So it's like, to me, that's why I kind of got frustrated. I was like, you can ride that. If you're going to go with this body horror thing, that looks good enough to trouble me and disgust me. And those aspects I thought were good in this movie. The gross stuff. I thought he did the gross stuff well.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think I kind of agree. But I don't even think that like that's a good example of that. But I think that just like you were saying earlier, it's really the concept that I like about this movie. Like the idea of a repressed twin thing, that is not new territory. But if you're going for this schlocky fucking late 70s, early 80s sort of like idea, and then a whodunit giallo type of thing on top of that, that's not a bad conceit. It really isn't. And I think that it does bring some of that body horror to it, but not necessarily enough for my liking. And the goofiness of the fucking backwards man creature when it's in full force doing John Wick bullshit is way more impactful than the fucking spookiness of the creature itself as depicted. So I think that's probably
Randy.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Is like I do like this as a general idea. It's just not executed is my problem.
Bob, what's your favorite thing about Malignant?
All my favorite stuff, I think, is when we're watching the VHS tapes from Dr. Weaver at the Simeon Hospital. Like, the movie starts off that way, where it's like a VHS tape confessional, and she's talking about Gabriel, and we see him like freak out and like kill all these doctors, and she's like, oh, we got to cut the cancer out, and we got a flashback again later on in the movie where we finally see like the two the brother and sister sort of conjoined, and it's super horrifying and creepy. And I kind of wish like the whole movie was just set in the early 90s in that hospital, and we just got like that family's story dealing with the trauma of like the little girl gave birth
6 months
to these like twins or whatever, and one of them's really fucked up and might be the devil and might be able to control electricity. Like, that's enough for a movie. Just do that. We don't need the weird like giallo slasher, like,
God, I want to
half a person in the back of your skull. Like, that's plenty for a movie. That was my favorite shit, was like the weird VHS tapes. I just kind of
Can we do one last little talk here?
Oh yeah,
because the giallo thing is like hot talking points right now. Yeah. And man, I've stated it on the record several times. I'm not big on giallo as I understand it, and I really don't feel entirely comfortable in the descriptions I've had of it. People are saying that like, and James Wan is saying that this is a giallo done his way. This is, he's doing giallo. He's done because he's got a creepy killer who kills people and who they're trying to figure it out with the police, but they can't quite figure it out. And it's kind of loose dream logic, you think, but that's not really true. Some of that shit.
I don't think so.
And it really does not feel anything like a giallo to me. The giallos I've seen do not feel like this at all. Even when it's at its most bombastic, no giallo I've ever seen has ever had a backwards man stabbing people like the Matrix. Like, that's never happened. And I just don't see what the fuck they're talking about. I feel like that's an excuse for bad plotting.
Yeah.
Malignant is not giallo. You heard it here on Straight Chillin'.
They allude to it in the fact that there is like a leather gloved killer who was faceless for like a single kill. Whereas like giallo, you don't know who the killer is until the very end. You don't see the killer's face at all whatsoever. He kills in shadow. You might see a weapon. You might see a gloved hand. That's it. There's like very high contrast and like very intense coloring in some of the kill sequences, which is also very giallo. But that's it, man. Like, the rest of this stuff isn't. It's loosely like riffing on those themes.
I didn't see that as giallo though, because those are some of the same color palettes. In fact, I've colored a classic horror story or whatever that's on Netflix, and that teal and red are like the exact same color palette that like James use it.
I think like just
and he used it kind of in Insidious. Yeah, I don't like just because he used those colors, I wouldn't be like shallow.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I think that's a misunderstanding that people have. Like, it seems to be like a lot of people that think that's what makes shallow. And I mean, that's an indicator, maybe. But there's
Suspiria.
It is.
What was that movie we watched recently?
Suspiria is not really a giallo. Suspiria, like when you get into like supernatural shit, you're not giallo anymore. It's largely a whodunit. It's largely a police procedural, which the second act of this movie is a police procedural. So like that lends more to the giallo than almost anything else. But like Suspiria is not like when you get to witches, it's like not really giallo anymore.
So, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. Even if it like, I just don't. I see that as a talking point more than a justification. That's just to me a justification for silly plotting, and I don't know. Well, I guess we'll get to the review.
I thought it was sold that way too. Weren't we all saying like, "Oh my God, James Wan saying that this is James Wan doing giallo"?
He did reference I don't remember them in interviews, and also some of the trailer kind of makes it feel that way. But it's, I don't know. Like, I think we might.
It's giallo done my way, which is code for giallo done badly, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know. We definitely, we got to rate this thing. We got to do it. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you do us the honors and kick us off? How do you feel about Malignant?
I did not like this movie, and I don't think it was fun. If anything, I think it's pretentious. It's got a lot of pretension surrounding it. Wait, no, that's not. It felt very, I don't know. And I'm not one for the schlocky horror movies generally anyways. That's not the lane I typically choose. But this just doesn't even feel like that. I feel like that's not a fair assessment of like, oh, I don't like schlocky films. This just feels like James Wan, a big James Wan miss. In my opinion, whatever his intentions were, I feel like he didn't achieve them well. Here are some of the notes that I took. Something that we didn't talk about, the music. I thought the music choices were bad. The kind of like butt rock signals or whatever, bad. Why does he call the phone? Like, I feel like he almost worked in the whole electricity thing, especially since he didn't do any kills, just to get him to speak through electricity. Maybe
as a mislead through the phone.
Yeah. The whole electricity thing, I said, why does he control electricity? I thought the voice that he used sounded so cheap and terrible. How did the cop see his face? The walking backwards looks so dumb. The gore is on point. The color palette looks just like a classic horror story, which I just watched. Why? Okay, this was my whole like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen thing too. She's a regular woman and this is a tumor. Mm-hmm. Why is it capable of beating the shit out of and killing? Why is it a superhero?
I think that they explain that as it's the devil. Like, I really do think they explain that without explaining that, but that's the only explanation that makes sense. At one point they say something to the effect of, you know, she as a child says like, he can make me strong or something like that. And I think that's all the indication we get that there's.
But then in the end, she was like, he was just doing it with my body, and she can lift this like huge thing. Why? Because
she suddenly has the powers of the devil.
That's so stupid.
That's what she's like. Oh, I can do everything you can do now, and that's like
so stupid.
I guess there's I'm sorry, go ahead.
The cop out ending. This looks like Voldemort. Yeah. And then the whole like shadow thing like looks like Game of Thrones. There's just this. I think it's kind of bullshit. This studio has been pissing me off all year. Apparently, they've just been cranking out a ton of just horse shit. It visually looks bad. Narratively, it makes little to no sense. The acting is not particularly good. I will say another positive though. The lady cop had a couple one-liners that legit in like the fucking more of this boring ass movie like had me laughing. Like she would like deliver a line and I thought it would give me like a chuckle. So that was one of the positives. I just thought the acting wasn't particularly good in this. I did not like this film, and I don't think there's a lot positive going for it. I actually was planning on giving it a 2, but I've gotten kind of more mad the more we've talked about it, and so I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Catch you fuckers at a bad time.
I just, this fucking studio, and James Wan too has run his name into the goddamn dirt.
Damn.
All right.
I mean, he's not Shyamalan dirt yet. He hasn't.
No,
he's
certainly he's not. No, dude,
he's not irredeemable.
I would rather watch Malignant 10 times than watch Old again once.
All right,
Rob, out of 5, what are you gonna give Malignant?
I kind of thought I would be defending this movie throughout this conversation, and I don't think I did a very good job at doing that. I feel like right when this movie ended, I was like a little high on it, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about like a new James Wan movie, even though it was sort of like tonally dissonant. And like I've had a couple days to think about it, and the more I think about it, like the less I like it. I feel like I can see like where he was going with it, and I love like when I first put this movie on, like as soon as the Dr. Weaver says like it's time to cut out the cancer, and then the credits start rolling in, I was like, fuck yeah, like sign me up. I'm here for this movie. It's like gonna be over the top. We get like goofy one-liners. The bad guy's gonna control electricity. Like I'm so here for this movie, and then you gotta wait an hour to get that movie, and it sucks. It sucks, man. Like they set it up and it eventually delivers, but like when it does, it doesn't justify sitting through that hour of just like garbage. Like it immediately goes to a haunted house movie. He's like, you know what? That movie that I just promised you, turns out I don't know how to fucking make it. So here's like a haunted house movie for the next hour. Cause I don't know, man. I just wish that like tonally it was more consistent and like, I don't know, maybe he like faltered in the writing process and just like went for some low-hanging fruit, some stuff that he knew worked in the past and was like, we'll check off like these, you know, these boxes here because it's money in the bank, and then eventually I'll do the big reveal and it'll be like James Wan, you know, turned over a new leaf and did like this crazy B-movie thing. But like you can't do that for a third of your movie. You have to commit and do it for the whole movie. I do love the over-the-top shit. When it finally happens, like, I'm on board. It doesn't look amazing, but, like, I'm here for that ride. I'm here for that experience. I just wish the whole movie was that. The weird, like, middle section just doesn't land for me at all. It just really doesn't. I'm here for James Wan, though. Like, I'm not totally, like, writing him off. I think the highest I can really give this is a 2 out of 5, though, ultimately. It's like 40% what I feel like he was trying to do, and like 60% just like regular ass James Wan kind of stuff. I don't know. 2 out of 5 for me. Randu, how do you do?
So yeah, I mean, I think we're mostly on the same page with all this. I think that this movie I think James wanted to do too much. I think he wanted a giallo. He wanted a 90s horror film. He wanted an action horror. He wanted some dirty schlock, grimy schlock, like Basket Case going. And at the heart of it is a guy that's spent the last 10 years or whatever doing haunted house movies. So it kind of came out like a haunted house movie. So I just feel like there's too many ingredients in this stew. If he wanted to make a giallo, he could have done that. I don't think he did that. I don't think he succeeded at that. Even if he says, "Oh, but it's my style." No, it's just not good giallo. It's just giallo that doesn't really follow the rubric and doesn't really provide anything additional that's worthwhile. I think that the acting in this movie is bad. I didn't mention that, but the acting in this movie is bad. I honest to God thought they were fucking Criminal Minds actors, like just. Like the police in particular. You said you liked some of her one-liners, but some of her one-liners to me, it seemed like it reminded me of that scene in Sarah Marshall, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where they're showing her talk to fucking one of the whatever his name, Baldwin brothers, and he's like, cat fight and all this. Like it's just this. It was like a TV movie in a movie. Do you know what I mean? And it was bad.
Yeah,
and even the main like actors and actresses. We're not doing great. The voice was stupid of the monster, but in fairness, so was Jigsaw's voice. Like that's not the thing that really bothers me. There's a bad score. I totally agree. I wanted to bring that up. The only thing that was interesting about the score is that they co-opted the Pixies' "Where's My Mind" at one point, which is so fucking on the nose as to be well, whatever. It was like the only thing that made it recognizable at all. Some people like that sort of shit, I guess. Some people like the score. I read on Twitter, there are people defending it. I do not like it. It was a nothing to me. I seriously cannot remember anything else about it, and that's not good for me. The CG is bad, and it overlaps any of the fun I might have had in that big action sequence, or a lot of the fun is taken away by that. The only part where it's good, really, to me, is what Justin pointed out, where the devil symbiosis twin is still on her back and is about to be removed. I think that's the most effective use of CG. And I don't know if that was entirely CG. I feel like that was maybe a hybrid, because it's something that's achievable, like as opposed to shoving somebody's twin into their skull and having it close like a metro rail. In its defense, I will say these things in its defense. I was thinking about it just now, and I kind of like the ending a little bit now, but purely on a metaphorical level, because I think that what he's going for, whether or not it was effectively achieved, was that she has this trauma that's followed her around, who's made her life a living hell, made her make bad decisions in her life. But when she finally puts a label to it, figures it out, and puts a name to it and adopts it as part of her, it becomes her strength. So she adopts the strength of her own trauma. I can get behind that as a talking point elevator pitch concept. I wish that the movie that surrounded that concept was not this fucking stupid. There's good body horror stuff, like conceptually. Like I said earlier, I love the conceit of that sort of thing. Don't look up teratoma. It's bad. This and the main things that I kept going to as my defense for this movie in my mind is that it keeps unique movies going to theaters, and unique horror movies going to theaters, keeps unique horror movies in the conversation, unique movies in general in the conversation, in a world where it's all superhero movies, including fucking Aquaman by James Wan. And it's like the fact that this fucking, is being made and had a $40 million budget, whether or not I think it's a perfect movie, I'm glad that those movies still get made, because they're a dying breed, and they've been dying for a long time, languishing, waiting for studios to pick up the buck. And the only people that can do it, or that are doing it, are places like A24 and Neon and stuff. And the things they're doing are very different than this. So I would love for a low, like for somebody to come along that's going to champion this kind of movie capably. I just don't think this movie is that. I feel like this is not Drag Me to Hell. This is not Overlord, and I didn't even particularly love Overlord, but I loved that it provided that outlet. So I appreciate the attempt. I do think there's maybe a little pretension in play here, but I appreciate the attempt to bring that kind of horror movie back to major audiences. That's my big defense for it. I'm going to give it a 2.
All right. With Randy's 2, that is going to make our aggregate a 1.8 out of 5.
That's pretty fucking low.
It is. It's not ideal. It's not.
It's not.
For us, that's pretty low.
I almost gave it a 2 as well. So it almost was a 2 average. And even that is rough.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's deserved. I think it's earned. I stand by it.
Let's jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Malignant.
Certified. Dead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the point in the episode where I'm going to give these gentlemen the chance to guess what the aggregate scores are, both critics and users, on RottenTomatoes.com. So we're going to start with Soju, and we're going to start also with our critics review. There are 76 reviews counted here. So I don't think that's enough for a certification in either direction. I think it's got to be like over 100 or something like that. But let's go with you, Soju, and see what you have to say about the critics here. What do you think they're going for?
I feel like this is almost a trap. I feel like I want to go low, and like the critics should give it low. Like, like you said, today is A24, but James Wan has a reputation and the studio and everything. So I think it's going to be higher. I think it's a bit of a it's going to be low trap, but I still can't take it too high in any kind of good conscience. So I'm going to say 56.
56%. Bob, how about you?
I think it's gonna be lower. I feel like it's gotta be sub 50. So I'm gonna go. Just give me 50. Give me 50%, please.
All right, the 50 split. Soju's going to take this one. You guys are a little off. This is a 74% positive.
Oh, I knew it was going to be a trap. I knew it was going to be a fucking trap. That's bullshit. That's
agree.
way higher than I could have anticipated. I thought maybe in the 60s tops.
So should I read the critics' consensus now or wait? Because I feel let's just do their consensus now.
Yeah.
Malignant isn't particularly scary. Director James Wan returned to horror, contains plenty of gory thrills and a memorably bonkers twist. No, I mean
it's not even a twist.
It's not a twist, real. I mean, I guess it's an attempt at a twist, and if you're not like looking at it that close, it's kind of a twist. The twist is that it's not the same movie you were watching for. It's just a totally different fucking movie.
Surprise! It's a different movie.
Surprise! You thought you were watching fucking Babadook. Instead, you're watching Basket Case. I guess that's a thing you can do.
Twist.
All right, let's go to the audience score here, and we'll start with Bob this time. Bob, where are you at with the audience? Oh, by the way, there are over 100 verified ratings, so much lower than it used to be, but low.
Pretty low. Man, I don't know. This, from what I've seen from people online, this is like extremely polarizing. So I think it would be lower than the critics. I don't know what the critics are doing. Maybe they're just pandering a little bit. I don't know. Give me a 55, please.
55. All right, Soju, how about you? Where are you at with this one?
55. I think it's going to be kind of opposite. I think there's going to be a huge fall off here. And we've seen some of the discussions in the Slack. People are pretty polarized on this one. So I'll switch it around. I'll take the 50. Me and Bob switch it. Do a little flip there.
Doing little flips. And
do the insidious flip.
Sure, yeah. It's a place I like to call the Further. And in the Further, Soju is king. This is 50% on the button. 50% on the button. Congratulations to you.
Hell yeet sweet, boys.
Game over.
So yeah, let's read a negative review because occasionally they are funny. All right, a particularly sick joke dressed up in pseudoscientific gobbledygook and lurid horror movie conventions. That's literally the name of this blog is One Guy's Opinion, so can't be mad at him.
That one was funny. That delivered on the promise we get every week.
Yeah, there's no promise anymore. That promise dried up a long time ago. Yeah, so this is a weird brew here. You got 74% critics and 50% audience. I would have, like, if it was me putting money down on any of this, I would have put it on the absolute opposite of that. I feel like audiences are almost always more forgiving, but this one is just not. They're just not.
I felt like his name is just going to buy some kind of more respect, I guess. And also, too, you just see it, especially in Marvel movies. I mean, you know, Marvel movies are generally pretty vanilla or good on the good side. But I'm just saying, like, you'll see that, like, movies like that, they'll get rated like 95%. You're like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't fucking Jurassic Park good. I mean, I think James Wan is kind of in that realm where he just... Yeah. He has a reputation, and I think until he just, you know, even we saw with Old, I feel like Shyamalan had a way higher score from the critics than was, like, honestly justifiable. So
I don't know about Old, but I feel like with James Wan, it's like this thing where, I don't know, it feels like maybe just seen too many fucking movies, and they haven't seen movies like this in a while. It's that same thing where it's like Saw and The Conjuring, those movies kind of broke the mold of their moment, not necessarily of the genre.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what this movie is attempting to do on some level. And whether or not we think it succeeded, maybe the critics they've just been swamped in the other stuff for too long. I think that's a fair thing to say too.
Yeah. Very valid point.
Just
Watch Shocker, please, everybody.
Okay.
Watch yourself get the shocker in the mirror.
Get it.
Oh, I don't have to. It's going. It's my guy on my back of my head that's doing.
Going in. Randy's about to get shocked.
That's a self shock.
Auto shocker, Randy.
Auto shocker. Hell yeah.
That's
I
your
love that
Transformer
phrase.
name. Auto shock.
Auto shocker. Yeah.
Oh God. That's gonna do it for Rotten Tomatoes. I guess there's
We
not
did
a
it,
whole
guys.
not a whole lot of trivia.
We did it. Go on.
Not a whole lot of trivia, so we're gonna cruise on by that. So we're gonna talk Cooter of the Week. Let's go hunting.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why are we hunting them?
Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, and we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness, boys. There was a clear Cooter to me. Does anybody want to submit to the court?
The husband.
Oh, geez. I mean, yeah.
I'm just going with the husband.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, yes, come with
We've
me.
been hunting long enough to get
On
the
site.
clear Cooter. Yeah.
This fucking Kevin from This Is Us looking motherfucker just outs himself.
So let's submit a point. Smug arrogance, I guess I'll start. Man, he's just such a piece of shit. We got to sort through all of this. What's a moment of smug arrogance? How about when your wife comes home and she's pregnant and she's also sick and she's like telling you about something and you freak out because she turns off your bullshit MMA?
Dude, yeah. He was very like, what the fuck? Like, it was immediate. It was the most reaction. He was like all in his phone and just like, oh, how's it go? Maybe you shouldn't be working, and just kind of being like half shitty. And then he's like, what the fuck? Maybe she wants to relax, dude. She is pregnant, and you clearly want the baby to happen because
and she has been through 3 miscarriages previously.
He's like, yeah,
Jesus
if you fucking care that, and then he blames her for that, by the way. And her response is, you can't do that. You can't do that anymore. He's like, oh, what is it my fault? That's fucking pathetic. Nobody's blaming you for fucking miscarriages. You're the one blaming people for them. What the fuck is the matter with you? This is the point in the movie where I was still taking it relatively seriously. Is like, okay, yeah, we had a crazy intro, but this feels like the domestic shit we see in The Conjuring or whatever. And he is way more of a piece of shit than anybody you'll see in The Conjuring for the most part. So I don't know. It was very, very on the nose for me. I think he's pathetic. I think he's arrogant. He's fucking manipulative as shit. Like,
yeah, as soon as he bashes that bitch's head in, he's
dude,
oh babe.
He like full on goddamn like macho man's her head into the wall.
Dude, that shit.
And then he's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, babe. And it's like,
I did
no,
police. I was like, oh,
police.
Yeah.
Call anybody.
Lord.
Like, and she just doesn't. Sexual deviancy. I don't think we have any arguments for that because they just don't really see any of that from him.
True.
Yeah, not really.
Looking attire, he's very much standard Kevin wear. Whatever Kevin is to you, that's probably what he's wearing. He's Kevin.
Oh, babe. Oh, did I smash?
Oh, babe. This isn't me. I just had a rough week. Yeah, that's why you fucking grabbed her forehead, pushed her back fucking 4 feet into a wall where there is now a crater. Your bad week does not rank, bitch.
No.
That's 3 out of 5. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm giving it to him. I don't want to talk about anybody else.
I don't either.
Yeah,
it's just gonna honestly.
Cooter of the week, piece of shit husband. I don't even know his name.
I don't know.
Kevin.
His name is Kevin.
I don't know if his name is Kevin or not, but he might as well be.
Yeah, we got to talk about.
I've never met a good Kevin.
Yeah,
except McAllister.
Well, fuck that guy.
Lock him up.
I met him.
We got him. You didn't meet Kevin McAllister. He doesn't exist.
Did you deliver pizzas to him?
Cheese cheese pizza. We got him. We got him locked up. Let's go ahead and let our hair down. Getting into the social hour. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randu, what you been watching?
I don't think that I brought this up. Did I actually? You know what? I think I did bring this up. I talked about the documentary "Why Did You Kill Me" last week, right? It's a true crime documentary.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And I also talked about Scream as well. Okay, so some of these are holdovers that I have.
Scream? I don't know about Scream.
Did I not talk? Okay, so I watched Scream this week. I watched Scream. I haven't seen it in a little bit. Becky hadn't seen it in years. And yeah, it's a great fucking movie. I think that Soju would agree with me that it's a 5-star film. But, you know.
Why am I getting called out?
I don't know. I just think you'd agree with me, you know? It just seems like something that you would call a 5-star film.
Well, if you had been on our episode, Randy, you would have heard all about it.
You know, some people got jobs and shit, bro. I did watch Carrie this week. Also, I watched Carrie for the cast. He wanted to, and I've been wanting to watch it again. So just went ahead and pulled the trigger on that. Whether or not it wins, I was happy to watch it. So that was in the books. I didn't watch a whole lot else, but I did have some very, very metro living situations happen. One of which was the other day. We were driving down the road and this woman started wiping her face with her shirt, exposing both of her breasts to the world, and was just kind of like full on for like maybe like a full 35 seconds was just tits out into the world. And I was like, okay, so I've been watching that.
Yeah, that's Randy.
That was a 0.5 star. And then the other side of that equation, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, we were going to walk down to some outdoor, just an outdoor like picnicky music thing that was going on to celebrate the opening of a new metro. And we walked a couple miles to get there with the dog, and we get there and it's roped off with the police tape, and there is a dead homeless man under a sheet in the middle of the fucking park. So that was canceled. Yeah. So I saw a corpse this week and I saw tits this week. I really got the whole gamut.
All the good stuff, I guess.
That's it. So yeah, I didn't watch a whole lot, but I saw some shit.
How are the Yabos, Randy? Solid?
I don't feel like answering that because
How was the corpse, Randy? Solid?
Oh, the corpse looked hot as fuck.
Oh, so we can talk about.
Yeah. It was pitching a tent under that sheet.
Oh, come on.
No, this is I will not comment.
I'm sorry.
It was really
America.
We could judge corpses on their hotness.
I'd be stroking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's what I've been watching. I watched Carrie, I watched Scream, I watched tits, and I watched a corpse.
Well, goddamn. Okay. Juice, what you been watching?
Oh my Lord, I've been watching so much. I finally did it. I watched Halloween H2O for the first time. Never seen it before.
Really?
Oh,
wow.
really?
Okay.
I was very whelmed.
Very. I heard you had some thoughts about haircuts in that film.
Oh my Lord, I hope we get to talk about that film. Yes, I'll save it for the cast.
All right.
I started still. I think I got further. So in order to finally wrap up the franchise, I went back and I have been watching Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I am about an hour and 5 minutes in. So pray for me to get to the end.
God bless.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Oh,
go with God, my friend.
Oh my God. I watched the new season of Rick and Morty because it's on Korea Netflix. Side note, Korea Netflix is actually baller now coming back because they don't have so many streaming services. So what Netflix used to be, where they had all the shit, that's what it is in Korea.
That sounds awesome.
Even their horror section has OG Halloween on there, Shaun of the Dead. It's got Exorcism. It's got baller shit on. I was like, fuck yeah. Also has Rick and Morty on there. So I watched a new season, and there was a particular episode that made me think of Randy, where there was the whole spiel about eating ass for 20 to 30 seconds, and that shit.
Oh yeah, that shit's good.
She licked my asshole.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
I watched a Italian horror film that's on Netflix called A Classic Horror Story. I always get that last word mixed. It's a classic horror story or movie or something like that, but it's on Netflix. It's an Italian film, and I was curious about it, and it was surprising. It was not what I was expecting, which I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. So
was it a horror movie? Was it classic?
It is a horror movie. It's not a classic. It is called A Classic Horror Story. Okay. I do not think it's going to go down as a classic, but it surprised me and is interesting. I was on the plane, and there was not a whole bunch of new movies that I was curious about seeing. So I watched a shit ton of classics. I watched The Matrix, which I was kind of going in. It's been a while since I've seen The Matrix, and I was honestly expecting to go in and thinking like, oh, there's no way this is going to hold up to its reputation, to kind of what I thought it was. And it did. That movie's good. And it's good despite the 90s cringe and that it's wrapped in, like the whole like leather goth scene. It's good despite that. So
leather daddy.
Good job. Yeah, that shit is a little ridiculous and cringe, but it's still very, very good. And I saw that new trailer, and I'm excited for that new Matrix movie. It looks cool. Because that's one thing it does kind of suffer from is the CG, unfortunately. I watched E.T. because I knew it had some Halloween vibes, and it'd been a while since I'd seen E.T. That also held up really well and has some quite spooky moments, and some like fucked up moments. I was watching it as an adult. I was like, wow, there's some intense shit going on here. Also watched The Goonies, which is also set during fall. Like the leaves are changing. They don't do a lot of like spooky things or anything, but the leaves are changing. And that one held up mostly. One thing I was annoyed by this time on watching it as an adult is like 90% of the dialogue is just kids yelling over each other.
I kind of love that, actually. It's I can understand why it's annoying, but man, I love that about it because it feels more organic.
It does, but as it like goes through the movie, it just gets more and more tedious and more shrill, because then they're talking over like waterfalls and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's have our own lines here. And then finally, I watched that Nickelodeon documentary, which I think Rob mentioned that. Yeah. Maybe both you guys mentioned it on the cast. So I had thought somebody implied that they revealed some devious shit that went down. And so I was kind of waiting for that, but ultimately it was just like very pleasant. I was very surprised. Yeah. And so I guess I just read, or I remember it wrong.
No, it's a loving fucking documentary.
Yeah. And so pretty much between Goonies, E.T., the Nickelodeon, I was just swimming in like nostalgia. I was like, oh wow, it was great. That Nickelodeon documentary, it was fun to watch.
Which
it was
called
like
the Orange Years, I think.
Yeah, the Orange Years. Yeah. And it really was impressive and just a lot of fun. Man, the 90s baller time for kids media. Like not just that, but I mean just baller time for kids media. So good on them. They did a great fucking job. That shit is classic.
Did you do any more Scooby-Doo by chance?
I haven't. I think that's one thing that they don't have on Korean Netflix. I need to double check, but I don't think it's here, unfortunately. I could probably find it streaming.
I'm dying to hear your thoughts on
media. But I'll look more into that after I finish Rob Zombie's Deuce. Bob,
yo,
what you been watching, my guy?
Well, I've been watching a handful of things. I just like randomly threw on Netflix Friday evening, and one of the first things that popped up suggested to me was this documentary about Leonard Skinner called If I Leave Here Tomorrow. And like, I've generally never really given a shit about Leonard Skinner, even though they're like from Jacksonville, arguably like the most famous band from Jacksonville.
The Native Sons.
What about Red Jumpsuit, Bob?
Yeah. But I just like threw it on because I get a kick out of like band documentaries, and I was like, okay, maybe they'll have like some interesting factoids about, you know, Jacksonville in like the late 60s, early 70s, whatever. And like this documentary is really fucking solid. They do have like some old school footage from Jacksonville, but like it doesn't linger on that much at all. It just like talks a lot about the band members, half of which died in a plane crash in the mid 70s, like 1975. I didn't know that. Like I really just don't know about I don't know about Leonard Skinner. And like they interviewed the surviving members of the band, and like throughout hearing them talk about the good old days, they were like shockingly progressive, like more progressive than most people today living in the South. Like hearing them talk about like their views on like gun control and like drugs and like the rebel flag and just like generally like living is kind of mind-blowing, and not, it's like the exact opposite of anything that I would have assumed about the band, to be totally honest. And it's like,
that is surprising.
Like a couple of them were like legit just hippies. Like it's just not at all what I would have assumed. They were definitely like shit
late
kickers.
70s band is full of hippies. Reels at 11.
From the Southeast. It's a specific situation. There's I don't know, they talk about like their old practice house, which was like in the middle of Green Cove Springs. Like they didn't have they didn't have AC. It was like literally in the middle of the swamp. And they would
I bet Green Cove was nothing back then.
Yeah, nothing whatsoever. And like one of them had to stay the night there at all times to make sure that their equipment wasn't stolen. And like,
oh my God,
they would show up at like 8:00 in the morning and practice literally all day, every day. And that's all they did. They had no money. They could barely afford anything to eat. That's just what they did, man. I love
I don't know
hearing
how,
it. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how like, I don't know if I'm misremembering this or not, but some years ago, my dad, who does not particularly listen to music in general, told me that he used to go and like watch them practice. Like him and some friends would go watch them like do rehearsals and shit, which is fucking amazing to think about. Anyway, I just like, I don't know if there was any evidence of that happening in the documentary or not, but now I kind of gotta watch it.
Yeah, they do have footage of them playing in their rehearsal space, which they referred to as Hell House, which I thought was fucking cool.
Whoa.
LLC or
there you go.
No,
is it a sole proprietorship maybe?
Yeah, no limited liability here.
Oh fuck.
But they didn't really have your dad hanging out in the background. I would have shit in my pants,
dude,
if I saw your dad hanging out.
I would lose my fucking mind.
That would be fucking amazing. I just want to look it up on YouTube now just to see if it exists.
That's Big Diddy Randy. Holy shit.
What if my dad was like a Duke Silver level secret musician my whole life? That would be the best day.
Randy, aren't you excited to tell your kids that you watched me and Bob practice back in the day?
I can't wait for their confused looks. I'm like, who?
So yeah, I definitely
you mean Uncle.
I got a kick out of that. Definitely like shit kickers. They drank and did a lot of drugs and fuck shit up and got in fist fights. But I don't know, man. Like a lot of surprising information out of this documentary. It's called If I Leave Here Tomorrow. It's on Netflix. I do recommend that. I watched a movie called Superhost. This is a Shudder exclusive. Super simple premise, like very bare bones, but done very well. It's about a YouTube channel. It's a lady and a fella, and they're dating. And basically, what the channel is about is they go around to like Airbnb situations. They stay the night there and they review their experience. They make a little video of it. They post it on their YouTube channel. They rent out a place, and it turns out the host is fucking nuts in the butts, and they have to.
Oh, this is the Airbnb horror.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Okay.
It is.
Yes. Okay. I am familiar with this.
I enjoyed it. Honestly, it's nothing crazy. It's very straightforward. It's kind of exactly what you expect it to be. It's a tight 80 minutes. I enjoyed it. I recommend it. If you got Shudder, throw it on. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
That's a new one from this year, isn't it?
Yeah, that came out, I want to say 2 weeks ago. It's pretty Pretty new.
We need to get some good new horror in the mix for our top 10 list
We
later.
desperately need to, because each time one comes along, I think, oh, I'm gonna add this to the
That'll
list.
do it.
Nope.
I don't know. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
Might have to be a top 5 this year.
It's gonna be top 10 worst films. That's what it's
doing-
gonna be.
Top 5, good. Bottom 10.
Yeah.
Bottom 10.
Yep.
No, we're
Some
doing
years
it.
you just got to do it. That way.
You just gotta goo it, says Randy. You gotta goo it. Been watching.
Gotta gabagool it.
Speaking of gabagool, been watching Sopranos. Still working our way through that. Wrapping up season 3. Getting ready for the Many Saints of Newark coming out this October. Pretty stoked about it. That's all I've been watching. Let's go ahead and get into our final segment, which is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you're listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got 3 voicemails this week. First up, we're going to hear from the straight chilling mailman. Let it roll, Randu.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's the straight chilling mailman calling again. To answer the prompt for this week, what's the most disturbing movies that I've watched? It would definitely be, well, it's a couple. A Serbian film is definitely the top, but not far behind, is Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom. That was just wild. Honestly, considering to request it and that you pick the flick if I get a spot. But I have a question for you guys, and it's which directors would be on your guys' Mount Rushmore? Like, if you guys had to pick your 4 favorite directors across all genres. Mine would be Alfred Hitchcock, Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese, and David Lynch. And I would honorably like to mention the Coen brothers. But keep chilling, guys. Great cast. Keep up the good work. Love y'all. Peace.
Damn, that is a tough question.
Yeah,
My
all
God.
genres like really opens it. You know, like there's so many to choose from.
I know. I'm really struggling here. I'm working. I'm writing things down. I'm doing the math. It's a lot. I think Lynch is a good call for me.
Yeah.
I also agreed with Hitchcock. Maybe. I think that Paul Thomas Anderson for me is a big one.
Yeah.
God, I love those fucking movies that he makes. Like, honestly, The Wrestler and Black Swan are both pretty high on my list of best movies I've ever seen. They still have. I would have said The Wrestler is the best movie I've ever seen some years ago, but I haven't seen it long enough to where I need to revisit. I mean, it's tough not to say somebody like Spielberg or something, but Spielberg has kind of been middle of the road for a little bit here. I don't know. I'm struggling with trying to make a clean last place here. Maybe Carpenter, possibly Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Like fucking, I don't know. This is so hard. God damn it.
Was that me?
I think it was. I got 4. Let me roll in here, and if you think of a 4th, Randy, you can jump in. I think George Romero is like fucking incredible. I love just about everything I've ever seen him do. Definitely would be on my Mount Rushmore of directors. I would throw Spielberg on there, man. Like Jurassic Park alone, not to mention Jaws. Like that's enough street cred for me, anyways, to get you on there. I would definitely go with Carpenter. I mean, The Fog, The Thing, Halloween. It's enough. It's enough to get you on there. And then I would also go. This is 2 faces or whatever, but the Coen brothers, man. I got to go with the Coen brothers.
Yeah, I mean that's tough not to include them too. I just thought about fucking Edgar Wright. I might put Edgar Wright up there.
Yeah.
That man makes good fucking movies. It's like just speak to my soul. I don't know. Like, it's tough. I think I would probably go Lynch, Hitchcock, PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson, and you know what? I'll say Lynch, Paul Thomas Anderson, Edgar Wright, and John Carpenter. I think I'm going with that.
Solid.
Yeah,
Subject
I don't have any like
every second.
True. Yeah.
particular ones that I'm just like. I mean, just the good ones, just the regular old good ones.
Just
honestly,
the good ones.
I mean, you know,
George
just like
Lucas, Neil Breen.
old Lucas. I mean, like even Tarantino. I his films. Who does the? See, I'm just like terrible
Mel
with people's
Brooks.
names.
Who's the
Yeah, Mel Brooks.
the
Who
bird
does
the Birdemic guy? Who's that?
No, not
my
Nguyen.
God, I gotta look it up. Yeah.
God damn it! Who does the Tenenbaums? Who does Tenenbaums?
Oh,
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah, Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wes
Yeah, there's,
Craven,
like,
Wes
terrible
Anderson, and
names.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
And Paul. That's my and James Nguyen. I think that's
There you
what's his-
go. That's Kubrick. I mean, Jesus. Like,
Solid.
Yeah, Kubrick. I mean, even watching E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones is baller, and I know, you know, pretty much Poltergeist.
Pretty
Spielberg.
much. Yeah.
pretty much Poltergeist.
Also Romero, though. I got them both. I'm covering both
Yeah.
angles.
Well, what
Yeah.
about fucking? God damn. What's that fucker's name?
I gave it to
Chainsaw
Randy.
Massacre. Help me out.
Toby
Toby.
Hooper.
Toby Hooper. I mean, Jesus, there's some good shit there too.
Yeah,
This is so tough.
it's just too tough.
Too tough. Too hard of a question.
You just
We-
appreciate too much art, is what it is.
We appreciate too much. I also
as is evidenced by this episode of us bitching for an hour and a half.
we just appreciate it too much.
James Wan, all 4 spots.
James Wan, James Wang, James Nguyen,
Jim Wan.
Jim Nguyen. I love it when our straight chilling mailman calls in. Like, he's obviously at work.
He's working his ass off.
And he is throwing your mail in the gutter as he's calling in. That's what you're
Well,
hearing.
time to make a call to Straight Chillin'. Throw this mail away.
This is bullshit. Throwing it in the gutter. I'll talk about horror movies instead. Thanks for calling. Always good to hear from you. Solid question, by the way. Definitely appreciate that. Next up, we're going to hear from our boy Tom. Let's hear what Tom has to say.
All right.
Hey boys, it's Tom. I'm just calling in to answer the prompt for this week. So, mine is not necessarily the worst film I've seen in terms of like content, but the worst setup for a film I've seen. So when I was 16, back in 2000, I was getting really into horror and just asked my parents for a bunch of horror movies for Christmas. So I was 16 and my brother was 14 at the time, and we got a bunch of horror movies for Christmas. It was a great time, and I was like, all right, let's pop one of these on. Let's go for Christmas morning zombie film. That sounds like a fun time. So, I mean, I don't know if this is a zombie film, but with a title like I Spit on Your Grave, how could it not be a zombie film? Well, needless to say, Christmas morning, there was a lot of rape, and we fast forwarded, and then there was a lot more rape, and then fast forwarded, and there was a dick cut off. So, yeah, turned that movie off, and that's how I ruined Christmas is like 2001. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. Have a great spooky season. I'm sure I'll call in again, and I gotta get one of those You Pick the Flicks for the last time. I've got 1 for 2 this year for there's a limited 2. I'm shooting for it, man. I'm shooting for it big time. All right, talk to you later, guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom. If You Pick the Flick and you pick I Spit on Your Grave, I'll watch it Christmas morning, buddy. I'll do it for you.
That shit. Oh, what is this movie?
It's got to be a zombie movie. It's got to be.
That is the worst movie to watch on Christmas morning with your family. Oh my god, that
I don't know. This doesn't top it, I don't think. But I did watch the movie Requiem for a Dream with my mom, which I believe I mentioned.
Close. That's pretty.
Yeah, I
fucking
remember you telling me
That was not
that.
that was not by my own volition though. She
Dude,
walked
but can
in
you
and
imagine-
she just wouldn't go away. Like,
Can
so I
you
was like,
imagine watching that movie though on Christmas morning?
I can't, dude. I can't.
I feel like Thomas has to watch it every year just to keep the tradition alive.
That shit is wild. That shit
That's
kills
so
me,
funny.
dude. Oh my god.
Thanks for calling, Tom.
That's so fucked up.
Hey, Ma, come snuggle in. We're gonna watch I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh my god.
God
Ooh.
bless you and your family, Tom. Jeez.
Yeah,
Brutal
I hope they
shit.
still talk to you.
Thanks for sharing. That's a good fucking story, man. Last but not least, we're gonna hear from our boy Corey. Let's hear what Corey has to say.
What up, you spooky nerds? It's Corey, and this is my first call as an official resident of Brandon. That's right, Brandon. If you're listening, it was me. When you coughed and hiccuped, me. Every time you get an erection around the elderly, me. Every time you have to pause your favorite show to take a shit, it was me. Anyway, I loved Brandon's terrible pickup line and was reminded of my time at the Yankovic School of Romance. Ladies, gents, if you're having a hard time winning that special someone over, just lay this one on them. You must have fallen from heaven, baby. That would explain how you messed up your face. And when their knees are shaking, finish the job with this one. My love for you's like diarrhea. I just can't hold it in. On to more life stuff. The same week we moved, Brenda found an event that was showing Dario Argento's The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, his first Giallo film. It's not a good movie, but as one of the most tame Giallos you'll probably ever see, there is a charm to it that really worked for me. So check it out if you haven't seen it. Lastly, I think I'll be celebrating the spooky season with more literature than anything else. The book chat and Slack channel has been on fire with recommendations. So thanks to Nicole, Jacqueline, Dahlia, and the rest of the gang for being such great guides to a new horror reader. There's no way in hell I'll ever be able to read all of them this season, and that's a good problem to have. Anyway, thanks, and keep chilling.
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Corey is suggesting that he is Brandon's conjoined twin who has been shoved into the back of his brain and now influences all of the actions and decisions he makes in his life.
I see him.
Am I reading that correctly?
The entire city of Brandon, Florida, has been shoved into the back of Corey's head, and he controls
Under
the
the
town.
skull.
He controls the whole fucking town.
Please stand clear of the closing doors.
Sounds like a better story than this film we reviewed today.
Wow, brutal.
So yeah, that was. I think. And also, we should give some big ups to the book committee on the Slack, because my God, they're really elevating the IQ pointage of our Slack channel. It's and it's all the ladies. All the ladies be reading. We just got our fucking. We're too busy hunting and shit.
I read some things on occasion.
I know. I started reading House of Leaves, and I'm just terrible at keeping up with that shit.
Yeah, it is definitely not fueled by the three of us, for sure.
Yeah.
We created the Straight Chilling Book Club because it was asked of us to do so, and there's a lot of like really solid recommendations going on there, and a really wonderful
Thoughtful convos.
Community has been born out of it, essentially having nothing to do with us, and it's great.
Yeah.
So if you like watching horror movies, you like reading spooky novels, it's all wrapped into our Slack channel. And again, if you are listening and would like to join our Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of our social media outlets, and I'll shoot you over a link to join in on our Slack channel daily conversations. Thanks, Corey.
Nice segue to ad.
Yeah, no. Corey was like, "Here's the alley, and there's the oop." Really.
I'll knock him down every time.
Knock him down. I play basketball. I'm sure everybody just knows that, right?
Bob is 7 foot nothing.
Oh, Corey, I hope you're doing well, and Brandon, acquiring some new friends in your new home. I know you're drinking some dope pumpkin beer down south, so good for you, sir. Always good to hear from you, buddy. Take care. I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon, sooner rather than later. Again, if you would like to call in, leave us a voicemail. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. That's going to do it for us here at Straight Chilling this week. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be talking about the winner of the September poll pick, which was Night of the Demons from 1988. Not the remake from roughly 20 years later, whenever that was. Slim your
Not
eyeballs.
Casper from 1995.
Not Sasper.
Not Casper.
From 2004 or whatever.
God damn.
Goddamn.
That is not a thing that needs to be remembered.
You're probably
loves
right.
Sasper.
I haven't seen it in a while.
I think he had a hand in it, to be honest.
Two hands.
I can
and
animate.
a lot of girth.
He's got that Sasper money.
I be stroking.
That's Sasper money, yeah. Slam your eyeballs
Sarsaparilla,
into
they call it.
Night of the Demons from 1988. Get ready for next week's episode. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can hit us up on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email to our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
I'm the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I can walk backwards fast as you can.